Hello everyone, this is the second video of Class 7th History chapter Towns, Traders and Craftspersons. Now let's take a closer look at three important medieval towns, Surat, which is in Gujarat, Hampi, which is in Karnataka, and Masulipattnam, which is in Andhra Pradesh. Let's start with Hampi. Hampi was a fortified city, that means it was surrounded by big walls, and it was a center of Vijayanagar Empire. While constructing the walls of the city, no cementing agent was used, rather interlocking technique was used to lock the bricks together, as you can see in the picture. Then the buildings in the royal complexes had splendid arches, as you can see in the picture, domes. This rounded shape at the top of the building is called a dome or gumbad. And then there were halls with pillars which had niches for holding sculptures. This space in the wall is called a niche. It was used for holding sculptures. And then there were well planned sculptural motifs on the walls. Motif is a repetitive design. It can be a lotus, it can be an elephant or anything else. And then there were corbels on the walls, as you can see in the image. Then there were many trading communities in the markets of Hampi, like Moors, who were Muslim traders, Chettis, and Portuguese traders. Then temples were also very important in Hampi. Temple dancers, who were also called as Devdasis, performed before the royalty, the deity, and masses in the Virupaksha temple. Mahanavami or Navratri festival was also celebrated in Hampi. 65, the Vijayanagar Empire was defeated by the Deccan Sultans like the rulers of Golconda, Ahmednagar, Berar, Bidar and Bijapur, after which the city got ruined. Surat. Why did people from far-off lands visit Surat? One reason is trade. Surat was very important for trade. It was easy to reach West Asia through Surat via Gulf of Ormuz. Then Muslim pilgrims could easily go to their holy place Mecca from Surat. And Surat was also very important for commerce. The Portuguese, the Dutch and the English traders could enter India through Surat. And then Surat was also famous for its zari work, which was in high demand in West Asia, Africa, and Europe. Then the city also had very beautiful buildings, pleasure parks, and rest houses. The banking system of Surat was also very famous. The Kathiawar Seths or Mahajans had huge banking houses. That means they provided loans for trading, for buying and selling. And Surat hundis were also famous worldwide. Now, what were hundis? Hundi, in easy terms, I can say, is a kind of written promise made by a borrower to a lender, wherein the borrower promises to pay a specific sum of money by a certain date to the lender. In the 17th century, the importance of Surat declined as a trading town. One reason is the decline of Mughal Empire. Secondly, the Portuguese controlled the sea routes. That means the ships could not set sail from Surat easily and freely without the permission of Portuguese rulers. Then, with the growth of East India Company, they opened up new ports at Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras, and the old ports at Surat, Hampi, and Masulipattnam declined. At Masulipattnam, Masulipattnam was important for trading in fish, and it was situated on the delta of Krishna river. It was very important center of commercial activity, and as a result the Dutch and English East India Company tried to control this area. There was a fort at Masulipattnam which was built by the Dutch. The Dutch came from the Netherlands. On the map, Machlipattnam or Masulipattnam was part of this. Now, Qutub Shahi rulers of Golconda imposed royal monopolies on the sale of various items. Now, what is monopoly? Monopoly means a single seller. So, Golconda rulers made a rule that only they can sell textiles, spices and other items to people. They did it because they were scared that if they are not going to do this, then various East India companies like the English, the Dutch are going to take over trade from their hands completely. And there were many merchants in Golconda, like Persian merchants, Telugu, European traders were there, Chettis, Golconda nobles were there, who were involved in sale and purchase of various items. As a result, this area became very populous and prosperous. Even Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb annexed Golconda in 1686-87. And control trade, East India companies opened new trade centers at Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. As a result, Masulipatam and Surat lost its merchants and prosperity. Merchants even went to new port cities of Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. So new traders like English East India Company, Dutch East India Company, French East India Company expanded their commercial activities in the Indian subcontinent, and there were Indian traders like Mullah Abdul Ghaffur and Virji Vora, who owned a large number of ships, had to compete with these East India companies. Gradually, the hold of European traders expanded as they had huge naval power. That means they had a huge fleet of ships, and they started controlling the sea trade and forced Indian agents to work as their agents. That means the Indian traders now could no longer work independently. And out of all the East India companies, the English East India Company finally emerged as the most successful East India Company. Indian cotton textiles, that means Indian cotton cloth, was very famous in the world market because of its quality. And the people who were involved in the craft of spinning, that means making the yarn, weaving, that means making the cloth, bleaching, dyeing, etc., made huge amount of money, because all these East India companies wanted to have more and more of Indian cloth. So there was a lot of competition, and weavers could gain a lot of money. But gradually, weavers lost their independence. How did this happen? British East India Company wanted that Indian weavers should weave cloth only for them and should supply cloth only to them. So they started making advance payments to weavers. Now, since weavers were getting money in advance, they became very happy and they accepted all the money. But this advance payment tied them to the East India Company. They could not sell the cloth to anyone else, and the final payment that was made to them by the East India Company was also very low. So they lost their independence of selling their own cloth to other people who could pay a higher price. Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras, British also divided the living space into black and white areas. The black areas were meant for the native Indians, the native traders, craftspersons, etc., while the white areas were meant for British people who considered themselves superior. So here we finish our lesson. Thank you so much. Do not forget to like and subscribe.